Hello, I'm Eric Gemmel. Welcome to this international version of the Hot Seat Sports Talk. We have former Central Michigan punter Jack Sheldon joining us from the land down under in Australia right now. Enough of this intro. Get the opening credits started, and let's get rolling. Started. So first off, Jack, welcome. You're the first person to do the show internationally from the land down under. To start off, Jack, where are you from exactly in Australia? And did you play any sports in high school or your younger years in Australia?
Yeah, mate. So I'm from a small country town called Echuca in Australia. It's about roughly 15,000 people. And I grew up playing a sport called Aussie rules football, so Australian rules football. So it's basically kind of a combination of rugby, a little bit of soccer in that we kick a ball, but it's an oval-shaped ball similar to an American football. And it's full contact, but we don't wear pads or helmets. And so, yeah, it's a lot of running and played on a field that's about 250 yards long by 150 wide.
Wow. Okay. So So no pads, throwing rugby style, football obviously with a little bit like you said. That's very interesting to hear. I've never heard anything like that, especially up here all my life. So before we get into your CMU football career and everything, tell me so tell all the viewers, like, what is Australia like for the seasons? Like for us up here right now in January, it's winter. For you guys, it's summer. What are your winters like? What are your springs like? What are your falls are like? And tell me, like, what's the lifestyle you had every day when you grew up in high school? What was it like?
It's a little bit different compared to the Mount Pleasant weather, that's for sure, mate. So in summer, I'm from the southern part of Australia, so it gets a fair bit hotter down here. So in summer, we'll have days around 115 to 120, and then obviously in spring it cools down a little bit, so around 70 to 80. And in winter, about as cold as we'll get is around that. We might get a stretch of days, maybe one or two a year, where it's high 30s, low 40s. But if it's that temperature, then it's ridiculously cold.
Well, I think you just irritated a lot of people who are watching this show right now, who are going to be watching this show, especially living in Michigan, hearing about those temperatures, because we got to deal with negatives all through December through basically March, as you probably know, as you've been up here. We were up here for a little bit. So did you play like that combination sport of football, soccer, and rugby in high school? Did you play actual rugby in high school? Like what sports did you play in high school?
Nah, mate. So I played Australian rules football, and I still play it now, actually. So once I finished my time at CMU, I came back and I'm playing that as we speak. But I played that from about 6 years old until I was 19. And then I broke my ankle playing that sport, and then that's what led me into my punting or trying out for an American football scholarship, and that's what led me down that path. So one of the main ways we pass it in Aussie rules is by kicking it. So you need to be able to punt it to one another, to a teammate. So you have to be able to hit them on the chest from about 50 to 60 yards away consistently, and that's a way that we pass. So we're not allowed to throw it in Aussie rules. You can only punch it with your fist or kick it or punt it to one another.
Now that's definitely a kind of football that I would love to watch. Just all punting, just especially for specialists like myself. So how did Central Michigan, so it's thousands of miles away, different continent. It's in the north, in the middle. Central's in the middle of a rural town. How did Central reach
out? Cornfields around.
Yeah, how did you reach out to recording, or for not recording, for your recruiting? Did you take a recruiting trip to CMU? And tell me, what was it like coming to the U.S. for the first time?
Yeah, so I'd never been to America before, but how it all kind of played out was obviously broke my ankle playing Australian football, and to play that you need to be able to run a lot. So a midfielder in our game might run upwards of 10 miles a game. So I was obviously ruled out for that for a little bit, and then I was walking back. I was at university in Melbourne, and which is a city in Australia. And I was just walking back home, and by chance I saw these guys punting, and it was an academy called Pro Kick Australia. So I went down and just asked about him, saw what it was about, and they're like, "Yeah, mate, come down and try out over the next couple of days." So I was still in a moonbird at that stage, but I got that off the next day. Went down there on the weekend, tried out, and they're like, "Yeah, mate, you're good enough if you want to give it a crack." So I signed up. I think it was in the next couple of days. Then went through a couple of months of training, learning how to the basics of punting, essentially. So it's a slightly different technique that we need. So went through that. Then after about a month of doing that, you'd get filmed, and the boys Nathan Chapman and Johnny Smith at Pro Kick Australia film over to Coach Bono, and then I think it was about I think it was in November of 2015, they rang up and offered me a scholarship, and I thought, yeah, why not? I'll give it a crack. So moved over to America a couple of months after that, and that was the first time I'd been to the States. So it was it all happened pretty fast for me, mate. So it was I wasn't quite sure what I was doing when I first got here, because the first game of American football I played in was actually the first game I'd ever watched. So I wasn't quite sure what the rules were or what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you take me, like you said, your first time coming to the US, it was, kind of you didn't know what was going on. So tell me, like, when you came to Central's campus for the first time, and what was your reaction seeing snow for the first time being up here?
Oh, mate, I was actually pretty excited. I remember first time, I'd only seen the snow probably once in my life before, when I went snow skiing once. But I remember the first day it snowed, I was outside trying to make a snowman. It was just like all this slushy stuff. It was no good at all. But I was FaceTiming my mum and dad back home, showing the snow. So I was like a little kid when it first started snowing, mate. So it was, but then I quickly realised that it wasn't much fun to play in the snow. The balls go pretty hard, and your foot gets pretty sore from kicking it after a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely for people like us up here, it's a kind of a norm to kick in such cold weather all the time. Because in training camp in the summer, it's so hot, and by the time the season comes around, the temperatures are going down up here. But yeah, you got to know what type of snow you got to build a snowman with. Especially up here. When it's really heavy, that's when you know when to do it. When it's all slush and just if it doesn't stick, then it's no good.
No good at all. Learned that the hard way.
So how long did it take you to not only to adjust for just in the life in the U.S., but playing football in a school in the United States?
It took a while, mate. What helped was I got over, flew into America. My brother actually, he did the same journey as me, but he ended up going to the University of North Carolina. So we kind of went through together, which was nice. So we always had, as well as a lot of the other Pro Kick Australian boys, there's a fair few of us over at the moment, but so you could always kind of run things by them. But it took a good season and a half to get into the swing of things and just get used to training and or the different types of training you do, and just even feeling comfortable out there, knowing the actual rules of the game and things like that, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So were you nervous in coming into your first practice for the first time? And like, were you nervous for your first game as a Chippewa, like in 2016? Like, just take me through those two times.
Yeah, mate, I was absolutely petrified. So I was nervous going into fall camp just because I'd never done it before, but I got through that and things were starting to feel pretty good. And I think the first game we played Presbyterian, and our first drive, we went down and scored, and I'm like, oh, how good's this? And before the game, I was throwing up in the queue because I was that nervous, and I walked out and saw a big crowd. And then I remember talking to one of the assistant coaches, and I go, mate, what's the likelihood I'm actually going to have to punt in this game? And he's like, oh, to be honest, Jack, we should beat this team pretty comfortably. So you should be pretty safe. Hopefully you don't have to get out there. And I'm like, oh, that's a relief. Calm right down. Then the next series, we've gone 3 and out early, and my first punt was out the back of the end zone. So I was pretty nervous there, mate.
What a welcome, huh?
yeah, what about straight into the deep end. So I was just more focused on not tripping over my feet than anything, and making a complete fool of myself.
Yeah, definitely. What a welcome to not only college football, but definitely your first game and your first punt in the back of the end zone. That's especially at home. But Chippewa fans are definitely very, very loyal, very great, as you know.
Yeah, very supportive, the Chippewa fan base. They're great, mate.
So in your second game in your football career, you guys traveled down to Oklahoma to play Oklahoma State in a game that forever be remembered in Chippewa history. So tell me what was going through your mind during that Hail Mary play at the very end of that ball game.
Oh, mate, to be honest, I remember the whole week leading into that game, we would Coach Bono was like just telling us, and I was probably more confident in us as a team that we were going to win that than what we were with the Presbyterian game. But obviously I was a little bit naive to the situation and how good a ranked team actually is. But when we had 0 seconds on the clock left, we'd practice Hail Marys like that a fair bit in fall camp, just not expecting them to ever have to run one for me in particular. But then when Coop threw that ball up and Jesse tossed it back to Corey, I'm like, oh, we might be a chance here. And then, it all kind of went into a blur, and the stadium went from being ridiculously loud to you could hear a pin drop, and just all of us and the small amount of Chippewa fans in the corner screaming and going crazy. So it was nuts, mate.
It was just because I was still in high school. I didn't know where I was going to school, but I remember watching that game on a Saturday. I'm like, wow, a MAC team just went into a Big 12 team and just beat them on the road, stunned them. Yeah. That's a fantastic win. That was a fantastic win. Do you remember what you did? Like did you celebrate with teammates? You throw your helmet on the field? Like, were you just like, what were you doing as soon as that they ruled that a touchdown?
Oh, mate, to be honest, first of all, we went nuts and we're running around like a bunch of headless chooks, but and dropped my helmet. But in Australian rules football, it's what you do after a win is you go and shake everyone's hand, and you particularly shake the coach's hand and say, well done. So me being the punter, I've jogged over to Mike Grundy. Well done, coach. Bad luck, coach. Good luck for the rest of the season. And it probably would have looked like the biggest smart ass in the world to him. But so I went over and shook his hand, and then that was kind of my experience with it, as well as going nuts with all the boys.
Yeah, because, unlike, Australian and up here, we don't, it's not like hockey up here. We don't line up and shake everybody's hand after every game and stuff like that. That's not how it works, especially especially on a walk-off play like that.
Yeah.
So your first season, you guys played Tulsa in the Miami Beach Bowl. Even though you lost, what was it like for you personally going to Miami, being in a bowl game, being a part of bowl game atmosphere during that week and then leading up to that game?
That was awesome. I think we played in, I don't know, can't even remember the name of the stadium. It was a baseball field. So that was pretty cool. But that was my first time going down to Florida. So it was a little bit of a weather adjustment. And I think a few of us boys had a pretty big night the night before we got on the plane to fly down there. So we were a little bit dusty when we arrived. But it was an awesome week, mate, and great experience. All bowl games. We played one more the next year, but they're just such a unique experience. It's cool to see another part of America and get to be there with all your mates and all your coaches. It's great fun, mate.
Yeah, bowl season. Well, obviously with this year, we'll get to that and towards the end here. But this year, bowl season kind of got shortened. The MAC season was shortened. Every sport was shortened, especially college football up here. So now we're going to go into a segment that I've done with every guest I've interviewed so far. It's called Rapid Fire 7. Just 7 different questions, 7 quick questions, just to know you better, Jack. So first, going way back here. So what was your favorite place to eat at Central when you were up there?
Stands Diner.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. All right. So what was your favorite place to travel to in the US during your time?
In the US, probably. That's a good question. What time I went to Colorado with Tommy Lazzaro and had Thanksgiving there with him. That was probably one of my favorite places to visit.
Touchdown Tommy. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
All right. So favorite Australian food to eat when you're at home. Favorite food to eat right now.
Chicken parmigiano, mate. So it's a chicken
Really?
breast with a bit of red pasta sauce, ham and cheese on it with chips and gravy. That's probably my favorite one, mate.
Yeah, that sounds
fries and gravy. Sorry, fries and gravy. We call hot chips or hot fries chips in Australia.
Yep. So yeah, as soon as I thought chicken parm, I'm like, okay, that's a little bit more Italian than Australian. But once you describe, like, yeah, that sounds a little bit more Australian.
Yeah, a little bit of a twist in there, mate.
So what was the coolest thing that you did here in the US, and what's the coolest thing to do in Australia during the summer?
Probably the coolest thing I did was playing American football and getting to play, playing for the Chippewas and getting to play in front of the crowds and things like that, and getting to meet all my mates that I've made over there. And the coolest thing we've done in Australia, it's probably we went sailing around a few islands up in the Whitsundays or the Great Barrier Reef, and saw a few sharks and dolphins and stuff like that, mate. That's probably the coolest thing I've done in my time up here, down here, sorry.
Now, how far is Sydney, Australia from where you're at? A little bit off topic.
About a 10-hour drive, hour and a half flight, mate.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Not too bad. No, not too bad.
Have you been to the Sydney Opera House?
Yeah, I have.
That's just all I see of that place is just photos and just video of that place. I want to see that place one day.
Yeah, mate, it's pretty cool. And the bridge, Sydney Harbour Bridge, is pretty cool as well.
It looks absolutely beautiful there. So what is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, it's a good question. Probably Borat, I'd say, mate.
Okay. All right. Favorite music artist and song by that artist?
Oh, that's that question. Probably Dean Lewis and Be All Right. Don't mind sad music, huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now for all of us Americans watching this, and probably, we don't know how many Australians and international people are going to watch, but
there'd be a few, mate. It'll be number one. It'll be above Joe Rogan shortly, I'm sure.
So what's the best place for us tourists to visit in Australia? What's the best place to go in the whole country?
Oh, mate, I'd say Byron Bay is pretty hard to beat. So it's a little surf town just north of Sydney. That's probably, if you're going to come to Australia, that's where I'd send you.
Oh, please just get me out of this cold. Just anything right now.
It's always warm there too, mate.
Yeah, you're just making me really jealous right now.
Yep.
So now going into your second season, you guys go some pretty cool places. Like for the first time, you would be going to Kansas, Boston College, Syracuse, and Idaho. So tell me, obviously it was your first time visiting all those places, and what did you think? What did you think of those states?
They were crazy. Kansas was pretty cool. Idaho was amazing. Syracuse playing in the Dome was awesome. It was a fair bit easier punting there compared to Kelly Short Stadium. And then Boston College. I'm not a big fan of Boston College, right? With one game I played there, I had I had 8 punts and 3 of them were shockers that got returned for a fair few yards. And I had to make my first career tackle there, and actually broke my jaw. So I don't have the fondest memories of Boston.
Yeah. So and I also I was looking at your statistics, and I saw you have 1 pass completion for 18 yards.
Yeah, that's right. So
that was your first time throwing a football?
The first time in the game, yeah. So
wow.
So it was a trick play we'd practiced all year, and all fall camp all year, and I was like, didn't think we'd ever run it. And anyway, so I think it was Toledo in my first year, and Coach Dietzel's called the play that we're running, and I've jogged out and I'm saying it in my head, and I'm like, fuck, I've got to throw it here. And so I've got out to standing up to catch a snap, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I hope I make this, and then ended up to completing it to Nate Brissenfast, I think, and he got the first down, and I was pretty happy. I think Tommy Lazaro was one of my best mates over there. I lived with him pretty much the whole time I was there, and it was just a backup at this time, and I've jogged off it to him, and I was like, I've got more passing yards than you now, mate. So I got that. So I was into him a bit. So that was probably one of the highlights of my time there, mate.
The punter's dream, right? To throw a pass like that and get a first down like that and just have a perfect completion percentage. That's just
that's it.
Awesome.
That's it.
So now you guys did playing on the Idaho Potato Bowl in 2017. So quarterback you played against in that game is actually playing for a trip to the Super Bowl this week is Josh Allen in Buffalo for the Bills. So tell me, like, did you end up like talking to him at all? If so, what was it like? If not, what were your thoughts of playing on a completely blue football field that the Potato Bowl hosted?
Yeah, mate. No, I didn't spend a lot of time with Josh. I don't think he would have had a lot of time for the opposition punter of all people. But no, he could. I've never seen a ball get thrown as hard or as far as when he'd throw them. But yeah, mate, playing in Idaho was crazy. It was the field, because it's really hard. It feels like you're playing on concrete because they haven't relayed it in so long. But no, with it, that's a really picturesque stadium. It's got the mountains in the background, and it was snowing the game we played. So it was I think we definitely lost that game as well. But that was probably my favourite bowl game actually out of the two, out of Miami or Idaho. I'd probably prefer to go back to Idaho actually.
Yeah. Well, there's not that much in Idaho, just potatoes. But
that's right. We got fed well, that's for sure.
There's a lot more to do in Miami, trust me.
This might be.
Playing on the blue turf always, because that's home of the Boise State Broncos. That's a unique field, definitely a unique bowl game to definitely watch. And for you to play in, and playing against a guy who's probably going to the Super Bowl has a chance.
That's our lives when took pretty different paths from mine to his from that game, I'm sure.
Yeah. So now I actually, funny enough, I saw you play in 2018, your last year at Central, at Michigan State.
Nice.
Your final season at CMU. So tell me, what was the atmosphere like as an opponent when you went out to punt at Spartan Stadium? Because Spartan Stadium is known for, especially in this state, for being one of the loudest and most rambunctious stadiums in the region.
Yeah, it was a pretty hostile crowd, that one. It was also, it was being both in-state teams. They were into it. So I think I was standing on the sideline, sitting on the exercise bike, just ticking my legs over, and I had a fair bit of vodka thrown on me. And what else happened that game? The fans. You don't want to have a bad punt in those games, because the fans are they're into you a fair bit. That's for sure.
Michigan State fans are definitely known for being rambunctious. Michigan fans as well, especially when you're the opponent going into their building.
That's right.
And trying to knock them off when they were 21st ranked when you play them at the time.
Yeah. So they were. It was a good experience. Despite losing, it was pretty cool playing in front of that many people too.
Yeah, and definitely that was a very fun game for me to watch. Not knowing that Central was going to be my home the next year, but seeing my first Central game in that sense, and actually, our paths actually kind of cross in a sense. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, Matt. That's awesome.
So now that trip to the East Lansing, like you said, ended up with a loss along with these next 7 games that followed. Now take me through that locker room, because that season coming in, when I came to campus in 2019, everyone was just talking about, the football team was just so bad last year, 1-8. Just take me through the locker room, like during that loose game. Did players think that changes were going to be made, like during the season, like coaches were going to be fired, staff changes were going to happen, or like take me through that?
Yeah, mate, it was pretty grim, to be honest, at the start, but it was kind of like a lot of the games. I know, like the scoreboard doesn't reflect this, but we were probably only a few plays away from actually winning, which was the really frustrating and hard part early on in the season. And then it started to deteriorate from there. But yeah, it wasn't. Let me give you the tip, mate. It's a lot easier, particularly going to class when you're you're winning, you're a lot more popular around campus when you have a winning season compared to when you go 1-11. I think we went. So it was towards the end of the season there was I love Coach Bono. He was nothing but great to me. But it was once we got to the end of the season, it was kind of becoming almost. There was a lot of people talking, and it looked like there was going to be some coaching changes. But that was my last season, so it was pretty wasn't the best way to go out, that's for sure. Yeah, the boys they bounced back the next year, which is always good to see.
Yeah, and I was about to say, McElwain came in out of Michigan and turned the program around, and your boy Tommy had a touchdown in the MAC championship at Ford Field, and
that's right.
Out there to watch as part of the Central Faithful and stuff like that. That was an awesome game, even though we lost, even though we should have won that game.
Yeah, he hasn't stopped talking about it, actually, Tommy. He still reminds me most days about that stuff.
So were you a senior at that time after the 2018 season, or did your eligibility run out?
So I went to university for a year and a half in Australia, and that counted towards 2 years of my eligibility. So I could only play a maximum of 3 seasons. So if I could have stayed there forever, I'd still be there, I reckon, mate. I love it. I loved it.
So now, after, like you said, after CMU, you returned home. You're playing in the playing Australian football right now. Is it professional? Tell me what that's like.
So it's unlike American football. We have different leagues, so it's kind of like AAA. It's probably the easiest way to compare it is like to baseball. You've got the majors, AAA, double A, triple A's. Yeah. So we're probably in equivalent is like the AAA. It's a little bit different again, but that's kind of what I'm playing in at the moment.
So do they have professional teams out there, right? They have
absolutely, mate. So we've got we to the our stadiums sell out all the time. So to our equivalent of our Super Bowl, we'll get 100 to 110,000 people at those games and things like that.
That's awesome. It's just so fascinating to hear, because I didn't even know the Australian. I knew you guys had rugby down there and a few other sports, but not Australian football. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'll send you a link after this, mate, and you can check it out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Hopefully I can find it on ESPN Plus. Maybe I can watch some of that when it gets in season.
For sure, mate. For sure.
So with all what's been going on with the year 2020, especially up here in the U.S., how did COVID impact you and the country and the continent of Australia?
So for me, mate, we our government was pretty strict with it. So we actually went into in my state was probably a couple-month lockdown. So we were no restaurants, no bars or anything was shut. Unfortunately, now we're able to bounce back a little bit, and things are starting to open up again over the last month or so, and we're not having. I don't think we've had a case in a couple of weeks, which is nice. So we did it tough for the start of, or pretty much all of 2020, but it's starting to bounce back and things are starting to get back to a bit of normality, which is nice, huh?
Now, do you guys do you have to wear masks in public buildings, our public gatherings and stuff like that?
We used to, not anymore. So we've just gone back to everything's almost normal again, mate. So it might make you a bit jealous.
Oh no, yeah, I am very jealous because everything is still, in a sense, we're still up here learning. We're still up in person. Masks everywhere you go. You probably hear about it all the time.
It's a bit happening over there and there.
No restaurants and bars, not until February the 1st. People at sporting events, all that stuff, it's still locked down. It's just taking a while, but it's fantastic that you guys are already at that spot, especially during the summertime.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It'd be pretty grim if we were locked inside when it's some nice weather out here.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad it's winter right now. Get all these horrible months out of the way before we get the summer of 2021 here, before it gets winter.
That's right, mate. So hopefully it's all good by then.
Fine for you, Jack. Have you or do you want to visit the U.S. and Michigan? Once this whole pandemic is done, do you want to come back to the U.S.?
Absolutely, mate. So I got back there for a couple of games last season to catch up with all the boys. and got to see the fellas play a couple of times, which is awesome. And if COVID wasn't around, I'd definitely be back there at the moment for probably for a few months, catching up with everyone, mate. I love it over there.
And final question for you: what's the flight like going from where you are to the U.S.? Like, do you stop in other countries? Do you lay over? Like, how does that work?
So it's about, it varies. So it's about either 14 to 16 hours to LA, and then from LA, I'd usually fly to Detroit, and then I'd fly to Lansing, or I'd just drive from Detroit to Lansing. So it was about a 30-hour journey from when I left home to when I'd get back to my apartment in Deerfield. So it was
Deerfield.
Okay. Yeah, Deerfield boy, mate. Deerfield boy.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely know Deerfield. I have a couple of friends living over there. Yeah, I definitely know Deerfield. But 30 hours. Wow.
Yeah, mate.
From there to LA, from LA to Detroit to Lansing. Wow.
Yeah, and then it was generally straight to the bar to have a few beers with the fellas. That's Troy. With the hangover the next day and the jet lag the next day.
That is quite a haul to it's quite a haul. So one final thing before we go. What is a typical Australian football season run from? Like, what months of the year does it run?
Start of April to then playoffs kind of start at the start of September, and it ends towards, so it's about 20 odd games you'll end up playing.
So starting in April, ending around September, October.
Yeah, end of September, depending how far you go into the
Okay.
playoffs.
Yeah. So it's like single elimination, stuff like that. Is a series like
usually the first so if you finish on top, the top four, they'll get a second chance. So 1 will play 4, 2 will play 3, and then 6 will play 8, 7 play 8 in elimination games.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. So then
a little bit different. A little bit of a hybrid in there, mate.
And then the championship game is like the just like our Super Bowl up here, right?
Yeah, just a one-off.
One-off, winner take all. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm looking forward to April already because I really want to see Australian football. I'm actually going to.
Absolutely, mate. I'll send you through some links to watch some stuff on.
Oh, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jack. We really appreciate. I really appreciate it. Very cool to learn about your country. Very cool to learn about Australia, the Australian Football League, and your ties to Central Michigan as well.
No dramas, brother. It was very nice to be on it, mate. Nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you as well. And we hope to have you back on once the season progresses and stuff like that, because I want to hear how the season's going and stuff like that, and just catch up when that comes around.
Absolutely, mate. I look forward to it. Brother.
So you have a great rest of your Saturday.
Friday afternoon.
Friday. I'm getting ahead of myself here. You have a great rest of your Friday as we're wrapping up Thursday night here.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. You enjoy. Head to O'Kelly's and tip a few in.
Yeah, for sure. So hey, stay in touch. All right.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. Thank you. Enjoy.
No problem. Thank you.
See you, mate. Bye.
Wow, that was awesome. Not only learn about Australia, the Australian Football League, but also his ties to Central Michigan as well, punting for Central, and him coming in is just awesome. Just all the culture and just everything about Australia, the best spots in the warm weather right now because it's summer for them. Annoys me, it probably annoys you as much. So but that's all we got for this installment of Aussie Sports Talk. And please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this show because this one is a very good show. Very nice guy, Jack. And yeah, that will do it for this installment. And we will be back when we have our next guest. And until then, as always, keep it fresh.